So uh, today we'll kind of go over how to use Anki flashcards, which I believe will be very helpful if you have a lot of courses where you need to like memorize things, or if you're trying to learn languages. And we'll go over anatomical reference systems. I'll explain what that is. And remember, I told you guys about this organ system presentation thing. So every week, a group of students who sign up to that Google Sheet I shared in the syllabus will present about one organ system for about like 5 to 10 minutes. It's supposed to be very like brief. It doesn't have to be deep. Just like what the organ system does, kind of like its function, and maybe have like a huge diagram or anatomy picture and pointing out like, oh, this part is called this, and this is like close to that or next to this in like the medical term, using the medical terms, which I will explain in the anatomical reference systems. And I'll do organ system presentation for today myself to show you how it goes, kind of. And also today we'll cover skeletal system. So I hope most of you brought your laptop, if you could. And this is so Anki is an app flashcard application that allows one to review cards with spaced repetition. So if you see to the right, you might have seen this graph before. It's called like forgetting curve. So every time, so the first time you learn something, the forgetting curve like goes down exponentially, very drastically down. But if you try to recall it, doing like a flashcards or something, then you gain the memory again. But the next time, the forgetting curve will be less, I guess, steep. Yeah, less slanted. So you will retain the memory for longer. And then again, if you memorize something again, hello, uh, you'll actually retain more knowledge for a longer time. So every time you repeat, your memory gains longer. And that period to term between like repetitions, it's kind of hard to like figure out on your own. What this app does is it kind of automatically calculates how long the repetition like term between for each term should be, and it'll be like different for each term like you memorize. As we said, it's like it gives you like a choice of things to do. I'll show you later. You can either say it's very hard, it's easy, it's good. So depending on that answer, it will change that repetition terms. So that's what's really good about this application. I personally prefer this over Quizlet because it has that function. What you can use this for, learning languages. I heard a lot of people use this to learn Spanish or Japanese. You can use this to study for courses, especially like anatomy. Might require a lot of like memorization of terms. I think it will be very helpful. I personally use this a lot for preparing for MCAT, which I'm gonna take in this January. We'll see how it goes. But also for this course, it will be helpful in learning medical terminologies. And I've already made a deck of flashcards you can download for your use. So let's get started with setting up Anki. So whoever has the laptop, you can search up. You can search up Anki or Anki in Google. And the first, if you click the first link that shows, there's like an option to download Anki. And you can choose whichever one kind of applies to you. mine is like Mac, so I'll download like the Mac one. Yeah, and then once you download it, you can just double click the DMG, and I think it should start the installing process, that screen that guides you through the installation. I already have one on my laptop, so I'll skip the parts. But is the internet like working well for you guys? Yeah, okay, that's good. Also, let me know if you have questions as we go. Yeah. Did you have a question? Can you give a thumbs up if you downloaded it and opened it? Was everyone able to download it? Yeah? Okay. So if you go to e-courses, and I think, yeah, there's a shared folder for Google Drive we use for this class, and click that, and it should have the folder that says Anki. Double click, there is this weird file format called .apkg. So that's the format that Anki flashcard decks use. So I already made one that kind of includes, I guess, all the terms you're going to be learning this semester, like subcategorized by each lecture. So let's see. Let's start this from scratch. So if you open the app, it usually looks like this. It will not have all these because didn't have any decks yet. Or if you already have used this application before, you might know pretty well. But let's see, I kind of forgot. Okay. Then at the bottom of this screen, you will see the button that says import file. You can click that. Oh, actually, you should download this apkg file first. And once that is in your folder, you can open that through import file. And it will give you this import options page. Okay, I'll go back to the screen real quick. And you will need to, there's like a option to like show more advanced options. It is kind of hard to see, so I'll do it on my own as well. So you would want the settings to look like this, what I have up here. Import any deck presets on, import any learning progress, that turns off. So this is what this does is if the person who exported this deck already had used those terms to like learn some schedules, and Anki has like a repetition term already made, I mean the periods already made for things, it will download that too. But for this, we don't need that because you're starting from scratch. Just this turned on. update notes if newer, update node types also if newer, and merge node types turned off. So then you will click imports. It will show a bunch of things. It says 521 terms. It looks a lot, but this includes like those smaller word parts too, like the prefixes, suffixes, the word roots, combining forms as well. So in the end, it might not be as much as you already seems. So don't be scared. Okay. So then you will see this one giant deck added with each lecture numbers. So yeah, in the future, I might sometimes upload a new that APKG file. And if you want to update the decks based on that, you don't need to like delete the deck before like downloading. You can just follow steps 3 to 5, or yeah, step 2 to 5 again, and that will the app will automatically detect whichever is new and whichever is not, and it'll update its current deck based on it. Yeah, so once that is set up, okay, I will show you like the basics of it. So everything you do with the cards, unless it's like learning cards. So when you want to learn cards, you will click either, oops, you'll click either whatever that deck is, or if you just want to learn from specific subdeck within it, just learn terms only from lecture 1, you click that and study now. You can like start studying. So you have the first term, and I think it's space. Yeah, space. And it will show the other side of that deck, which is the definition for cardio, hard combining form. So what I meant about that, again, hard, good, easy, is here. So at the bottom, you will see it has like these buttons and also like the time on top of it. So this basically means that if you click again, the app will hide this card for 10 minutes. And then when you return or like click this back again, it will update to have these red ones are the ones that are learning, and it will like add them into here. And those learning cards will pop up in order. So sorry, I'm not sure if I'm explaining well. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. So if I say like it's again, you can like check later. Probably again, don't know that well. And after 10 minutes, we can check if it is really like going back to this part. So usually when you hit good twice in like or hit hard and then good, at least on one day, it will save that term as like a learned term, and those ones will like pile up into the future. So like it will tell you like opening like, no, it will not tell you, but when you open like the next day, only terms that were due that day will show up for you to review, and kind of goes on like that. You have an option to edit the card as well if you want to. For example, like you want to add some notes. Skull is where the brain is enclosed. You can do things like that. You can change like the formats And yeah, and you don't have to save it, you just close it. And but instead of adding things there, the best you could do is actually click browse, which is over here at the top bar. And that's where you usually, I guess, manage the cards. And you can click the top one or whichever one you want to be like working with. Let's say medical terminology, and you want to search up where's cardio. You find cardio cards there, kind of like Control F in the Windows. So what's good about this is that it also will show when cards are due. If you said it is hard, yeah, it kind of shows here. Since I say it again, it's due in 10 minutes, which is due today. It'll kind of show like that. And if you want to add tags to the cards, you can right click the cards, or actually you can just double click the cards, and on the bottom there's this tags section. You can add whatever hearts, for example, let's say, and that tag will add down here. So if you click hearts there, you'll have the tag, and whichever other terms that has heart written as like a tag will like show up as a list here. So you can like organize by organ system if you wish. And let's see what else. Back options. Okay, so I already made all the decks for you, so it's easier to start with. But if you want to make new cards, I think you can right-click whichever deck you want to add cards and click Add Notes, and that will open this screen. And yours probably won't have like this many. It's kind of messy, but the most important things are basic cards, which I made my cards based on. If you have something high and my name is like that, and there's an option to preview somewhere. Okay. Okay, let's just try with this one. If you already made the cards, you can preview it. So what basic card does is it will just show the first term that's in the front and return when you click space, it will show the back of the card, which is like the definition or whatever you assign it to. Close deletion is more interesting. Let's see. So it should be this one. You can choose the type close, also change the back if you want to from whichever one you chose. And for close deletion, let's say my name is one, and you want to make this part hidden. On the top bar, there should be this 3 dots with the plus looking icon. If you click that, that will enclose that whatever you highlighted in 2 brackets, C1 dot dot, my name, kind of like that. So how that will look, let's say I'll just put it here, for example. And then when you want to add the card, it's bottom left, there's like an add card. You add it on. Okay, that's the one. So if you click a preview, it would look like, oh, you kind of cut it off. So I'll just, let's see, maybe this might be better. Okay, so if you preview, it will look like my name is ... When you click space from here, it will show the results. I mean, what you actually put it in there. I personally think close is more better for memorizing things than just like normal basic front and back flashcards. Because you can say like, when you increase substance A, it results in increase or decrease. That part you can do the close of substance B, kind of like that. It's more versatile. And my favorite one is actually of human body, something like that. And I'll just like copy this and copy some kind of image you find in Google. And let's say I'll add a note. Oh, right. For this one, you don't have to select anything from type. On the top bar, you might see this blue or purplish icon. It looks like a rectangle. If you click that with some kind of image in your clipboard copied, it'll open this page. And this tool will already be selected for you. And you can hide some terms on that page with this box. Let's say I want to hide these things. If I want to recall what these things are from this picture. So if I do that and make sure I've chosen the right deck, lecture 1, and you have a choice to either make a hide all guess 1 or hide 1 guess 1 as like an add card. It kind of like is intuitive. Like if you want to hide just 1 and these are all visible, and when you enter a space, this will reveal, or hide all guess 1, everything will be hidden. And if you hit space, only this one will show results. So let's try with the hide all guess 1. It adds 4 cards for each boxes. So what this does is like card type, IO card. So you will actually get this looking screen when you review those decks. This red part is the part that's asking, like, what is that? I think this was like organs. And next one will go like, oh yeah, what is this one? I forgot what that was. Vital organs. Kind of like that. You can cycle through each of them in the deck. And when you actually review the deck, it will usually be like randomized in order. There's a way to change that too, which I'll go over as well. So those are basic 3 card types that I found people use the most. And I think it's the 3 most useful ones. There are other stuff too. If you're interested, I have this link for additional resources for Anki. It's a YouTube playlist by this guy named Yang. It's really good tutorials on things, anything about Anki. So you can feel free to watch that. It should be in the PDF slides I shared in the Google Drive. So okay, I will skip some parts. There's like more functions to Anki than this, but just for the sake of time, I might not talk about everything. But as I said, there's additional resources you can refer to. And also, if you're curious, you can come to my office hour. You see, like 5 p.m. today, like every Tuesday, in Zoom. Let's see, browse tab. I guess one important thing I still would talk about is the deck options. So you can also choose options specifically for each subtext too. Let's say for medical terminology, it will pop up this screen. Oh, yeah, this screen. I think this is better this way. Okay, whatever. And probably the things you should be most concerned about is this one. How many new cards per day you want to learn? I said 10 cards per day, I think, is default for the deck I shared with you guys. But if you want just 3 cards a day, that's fine. And this, just keep it as 999, whichever like is the max value. This learning steps thing changes that when you answer again or hard as like the what you think about the cards. The again, if you click the again value, it will hide the deck, hide the card for 10 minutes. If you set this as 2 minutes, it will hide for 2 minutes instead. I would say the good range is like 10 to 15 minutes, but this is also up to you. Real learning steps, this is when you hit again for the card, and then you hit hard or good afterwards. It will be hidden for 15 minutes. You can also change this to other times. I found it 10 minutes, 15 minutes to be working for me. So I set that as your default too, but you can change that too. And this is where you can change the order you get the cards from the decks. You can have it random, or yeah, there's multiple different options, but I wouldn't go over them. But I think I set it so that the cards come in random, but from the order of like lecture 1, lecture 2, lecture 3, kind of like that. Don't worry about this thing. This is just like how it figures out that term, the periods, the time between like each learning curve for each cards. And I think it's like a lot of like mathematics on it. Yeah, everything else, I think there's like a feature to auto events. I don't recommend you using it because you don't want to skip a card because you were not paying attention. Yeah, I think that's mostly it. There's other options too. The YouTube link I shared will go over like all these things too if you're curious. So feel free to take a look at those. And when you want to save them, this is like the important part. When you have to save the settings, you can like create a new name and do add presets. So that will save new settings you made for that deck. And after that, open it again and click the save to all subdecks within that deck. So this will apply to lecture 1, lecture 2, lecture 3, all those like subdecks within it. I'll like save it to all subdecks, and yeah, so that's like the basics of it. Sorry, it might have been a lot, but there's a lot of like YouTube tutorials or just in the Reddit, a lot of resources available too. So I hope this was like a good intro to how to use Anki. For other classes too, if you want to use, you can make the cards that way. So I'll return to the slides. So anatomical reference systems. So what it means by it is a way to describe the locations of different body parts, what is close to something, what is away from something, what is above the midline, below the midline, kind of things like that. The first is the body planes. I think this is like the most intuitive one. If you have like a 2D plane that kind of like separates your body like this way, it's called mid-sagittal plane or just sagittal plane. It divides the body into equal left and right halves. Frontal plane is this one, where you divide the body into front and behind, the back, with the line kind of going through like this. So it divides the body into front. We'll go over its front in anatomical terms is anterior, and back posterior. So it divides the body into anterior and posterior portions. Horizontal planes. So transverse plane is a horizontal plane that kind of divides into like kind of having your like abdominal cavity as like the guide. Everything below is below the transverse plane. Everything above is above the transverse plane. It divides the body into superior, which means upper, inferior, which means lower portions. This is probably the one you will use most when you're referring to directions of things, maybe in the organ system presentation too. So ventral is, okay, I will give no, never mind. I'll do it at the end. So ventral is toward the front or belly side of the body. So if you look at the image to the right here, ventral is to this side where the belly is, and dorsal is toward the back of the body. So dorsal is this side, which is on your back side. And anterior means situated in the front or front part of the body or part of the body, which is also the same as ventral for human. Posterior, situated in the rear part of the body, so posterior on the back side. So you might notice, why do we have like two terms for anterior ventral, which means the same thing, like front, posterior dorsal, which means the back. Does anyone have a guess why there's like two different? Yeah, that was exactly what I was gonna say. Yep. So animals actually most of them are quadrupedal. They have like 4 limbs. So what it would look like is actually the ventral, the belly side, is the kind of like the bottom, because belly is at the bottom when you're like walking in 4 limbs. Dorsal is the back side. Anterior, it's not in this picture, but anterior would be like the front toward the head side in the animal. Posterior is towards the back side, tail side of the animal. So for that reason, you have anterior, posterior, and ventral dorsal as like a different terms. But for humans, they're the same because we walk with 2 legs. So those terms are interchangeable for human, but not for animals. Superior means uppermost, above, or toward the head. Superior just means like towards the head, like just towards your top. Inferior, opposite. Inferior is the lowermost or below, toward the feet. In this picture, superior is at the very top and inferior is at the very bottom. That's the direction, but it's not like everything at the top are just superior and everything at the bottom are inferior. Those are just, every terms here are like relative terms. So we can say head is superior to chest because relatively head is higher than the chest. That's how we will use these terms. Cephalic is toward the head, means toward the head. So this is also kind of like in reference to animals. I remember animals actually have the head that's not on the side of your belly. So cephalic toward the head. For human, it is the same. It's like the very top is the same as where your head is. But animals, it might be a difference. Caudal is the opposite of cephalic. It is toward the lower part of the body, or more exact, more toward the feet. But for humans, superior and cephalic interchangeable. Inferior caudal also interchangeable. Proximal means closer to the beginning of a structure. So kind of, it means the same thing as close to something. So let's say there's this pen close to me and this paper away from me. So this pen is proximal to me, whereas distal means farther from the beginning of the structure. So that paper will be distal from me compared to the pen. Also, like pen is proximal to me compared to the paper. So it's all relative. And medial means close to or directed toward the midline. Remember the mid-sagittal line kind of divides your whole body into half. If it's closer to that midline, it's called medial. Opposite is the lateral. If it is directed away from the midline, it is lateral. Sorry. Yeah, it is lateral. So if you look at the diagram here, we'll see like proximal, that's close to the, I guess, the shoulder hinges, as defined as proximal. But if it's farther away, your hand will be distal from that shoulder side. Medial is closer to the center of the body or core of the body. That's medial, but your arm is distal to your center of the body. Oh wait, lateral from your center of the body. So that's how we use these kind of terms. Yeah, it's hard to get used to. As you might notice, I'm kind of like struggling which term is which, but I feel like these terms probably will be most relevant if you plan to do like some kind of medical schools, like nursing schools, or anatomy class. This term will be used over and over again, so it'll be great to know these terms very well. These will be more intuitive. So your body can be divided into multiple cavities based on which organs it's still storing. So in big terms, it's divided into dorsal and ventral cavity. So dorsal, you remember, it's on the back side of your body. Dorsal cavity, includes everything from your brain to your spine. The ventral cavity, which is on your belly side, includes everything on the belly side, which is the red, these two big lobes of cavities there. So what's included in the dorsal cavity are cranial cavity, cranio, you might remember, it's a combining form that means skull. So cranial cavity, it surrounds and protects the brain, which is at the very top. I think it's labeled in the diagram too. Spinal cavity, basically your spines. And pelvic cavity is the area of your body that surrounds the reproductive and excretory systems, which are down here. This much is pelvic cavity. Thoracic cavity surrounds and protects the heart and the lungs. So if you see that big separate lobe up there, so that's the thoracic cavity, holds the lungs and the heart. Abdominal cavity contains the major organs of digestion, small intestine, large intestine, stomach, and this part is abdominal cavity. Abdominal cavity and pelvic cavity, its distinction is not very clear. So if it's like more close to the pelvic side, they call it pelvic cavity. It's more close to the thoracic side, they call it abdominal cavity. And yeah, so those are the major body cavities. Um, any questions so far? Are good? Okay. So I prepared like an example of the organ system presentation. This is like how you'll be doing. I'll be presenting some terms in these slides though. You don't have to prepare and define any terms when you're doing the presentation. I just wanted to include some terms that I will use during this organ system presentation. But yeah, so ignore the terms part. So let's start with what it does. The skeletal system is a system that maintains body shape and posture. As is kind of obvious, your bone is probably like the hardest material in your body. It creates rigidity, some structure to it. It protects vital organs, especially your ribs. Will protect your heart and the lungs. Skull protects the brain. Yeah, rib cage protects the hearts and lungs. Also, your bone or skeletal system is the site of blood cell production, which I will go over in the next slide. It produces red blood cells, white blood cells, and also the platelets, which are substances that help clog your blood when you have like a small cut and then you start bleeding. Platelets will come in and clog that wound. Also, joints are also part of the skeletal system. Cartilages are also part of the skeletal system that arouse a wide range of motion. Also, bone is involved in conducting sound, which is kind of interesting. You might have heard this for the first time. You actually have this thing called bone conduction. So there's two ways of hearing things. You can hear sound through your tympanic membrane, or like sound will come through and it hits the eardrum, and that will like transfer over to your that snail-looking organ, if you remember from high school bio class. That's one way. Second way is bone conduction. If you have something like placed directly on you and that creates a sound or vibration, it will transfer through the bones to that snail-looking organ that way. So I remember there was someone who is like a medical assistant. You might have done a test where you have like I forgot what it's called. Do you guys remember what that stick with the, oh yeah, the pitchfork. If you have a pitchfork and you just like thing it like right next to your eye, that tests your normal hearing. But another way is to have it attached to your top of your head or next to your ears, like this, and then you ring it. It will conduct through your bone, and that tests for bone conduction. So those are like two things. If you do like a hearing test in like a doctor's office, that's something that could be doing. So this is the internal structure of the bones. And this is also, this inner part is where the blood is made. So if you see, let's see which one is going. At the very superior side, you have the articular cartilage, and inferior to it is red bone marrow. So that area is where the bone marrow that creates red blood cells are, at that superior side. And inferior to it is spongy bone. So This also contains the, so this is the part that contains red bone marrow. And in that red bone marrow, the red blood cells are made. Yeah, that's the correct way. And inferior to it is the medullary cavity, and that is enclosed in the compact bone. So that is where, if I recall correct, that is where like the red blood cells that are made in the red bone marrow will like travel through before it gets delivered to your circulatory system, so the red blood cells can keep going. And there's also yellow bone marrow, which is the yellow part over here, which is the portion that creates fats or fatty tissues in your inside your bones. And to the inferior to it is the blue, these blue portions. This is also cartilage. The cartilage is a gel-like substance, usually between like the contacts of your bone, so the bone doesn't like kind of like crash on each other and grind each other. So this cartilage will protect them from like kind of grinding on each other. I'll do some more like term stuff. So this, at the very end of the bone, is usually called epiphysis. So this one says like distal epiphysis. It's distal to it. Proximal epiphysis, it's proximal to that part. So this, okay. Now it's the bones of thoracic cavity. Remember the one that contains the chest and heart? You don't need to know that things that are in like bold and black. You'll need to know the ones that are blue and orange terms. So ribs contain 12 pairs of ribs, and sternum is this giant, like a lob-looking, maybe like a sword-looking bone up there. And clavicle is your shoulder bone, or more like the one that extends from your like neck to your shoulder. It's like you can kind of feel it if you like press on your body. That's clavicle. Scapula, your shoulder blade at the back. And I won't go anything else in detail. You feel free to look if you're curious which part is which. I feel like this is more like anatomy than like terminology. But one important thing I want to note is, if you want to say where the apex or the very center of your heart is in medical terminology, the most, I guess, conventional way to call it is fifth intercostal space at the mid-clavicular line. Let's break that down. So intercostal, so inter, if you recall from last lecture, means between. Coast, also from last lecture, which means rib, and al, pertaining to. So intercostal means between the ribs. And we said fifth intercostal space. So that intercostal space starts from between that blue cartilages at the very top. First one, like, it would be very good if I had a sorry. That's the first one at the very top. Second one, third one, fourth one, and fifth one. This is the fifth intercostal space. It's between it and between the ribs, and it's the fifth of those intercostal spaces. Wait, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so it's here, and also at the mid-clavicular line. So mid-clavicular, so mid, which means middle, kind of obvious. Clavicle refers to the clavicle, that's shoulder bone, and are pertaining to, so pertaining to the middle of the clavicle. So we're at that intercostal space. And if you look at their clavicle kind of extends like that, let's assume it also extends this way too. So if you find that midline from that clavicle and just come straight down, it will be probably around like here. So that's where the center of the heart for most people are. Some people's heart is a little shifted to the left or the right, but usually this is where the middle of the heart is. And that's really good to know because if you take some physiology lab or do some medical work and do EKG or ECG, you attach these electrodes along your body. I think one like around here, around here, around here. And the fourth one needs to go exactly at the apex of the heart, where I described. Here, around here, and last one I think around here. Like around 6 of them. And you will connect that to like an electrical device, and it will read the nerve impulse from your heart. So yeah, that's how you would define apex of the heart. This is your spinal bones. So vertebra is a fancy way of saying bones of spinal column. So these you don't have to know, but I think you might have to know for like anatomy maybe in the future. At the very top is the cervical vertebra. There's 7 of the bones that consist of cervical. And to the down is the thoracic vertebra. It kind of matches with the thoracic cavity in your body. There's 12 of the bones. And in between those bones are intervertebral discs, which I will cover later. But below that is the lumbar vertebra. There's 5 bones in there. And at the very end is the sacrum and coccyx at the very bottom, like just lining it. I remember one of you were thinking of learning medical terminology for medical malpractice. I heard, not too sure because I'm not in the field, but I heard they refer to these a lot because a lot of times like people get like a breaking the bones of the spinal column and you want to refer which specifically it is. And they would say like, oh, that's a T4 fractures. That's a thoracic vertebra, the 4th bone from the top, from superior side. Kind of like that. And if you want to memorize this, I have like an easy mnemonics for it. So cervical at the very top, kind of think of it as breakfast. Usually you eat at, or if you do eat breakfast, 7 a.m. And thoracic, it has 12 bones. Lunch usually at 12 p.m. Kind of like that correlates. Lumbar, you have 5 bones. You eat dinner around like 5 p.m., let's say. So 7, 12, 5. That's how I would remember. But you don't need to know for this class. That's just if you want to know for your reference. The sacrum and coccyx. And intervertebral discs. Inter, we covered, it means between. Vertebral means vertebra, kind of obvious. It's a combining form. Suffix al, pertaining to, plus disc. Disc is just disc. It doesn't have any origin. Or it probably would, but not the Greek or Latin origin. So intervertebral disc is a cartilage-based, so fiber cartilage structure between vertebra that acts as a shock absorber and permits limited motion. So you might have heard the term like herniated disc. Yeah. And that is when the disc kind of like dislocates out of the cartilage dislocates out of your spinal column and it presses on your nerve. That pressure on the nerve creates like pain signal on the nerve like continuously. That's why you feel like a back pain from the herniated disc. As like a side note. Also, I'll never test on anything like this. So one example disease for skeletal system is rheumatoid arthritis. It's more like a immune system disease, but I like immune system a lot, so I decided to include this. It's an autoimmune disease where the immune system mistakenly attacks the lining of your joints. So usually happens in the fingers or the knees. Symptoms include joint swelling. You get your white blood cells, your immune system attacking things. You get an inflammation. That's why you get swelling and pain and flares. As you can see on the image, the red part is where the rheumatoid arthritis is happening. So as it progresses, inflammation can also spread to other body parts because your joints are most likely made with the same materials coded by the same DNA. So if you don't like treat it early, or if you don't get like treatments, which are usually anti-inflammatory drugs, for a long term, you'll have this spread all your body, and every single joint on your body will suffer. So it is a very hard disease to maintain. You have to take anti-inflammatory drugs for mostly the rest of your life. Oh, so that was the end of organ system presentation. I would usually give it in the format of that way, just excluding like the terms or like the side notes I gave. Didn't have to do those. Just tell everyone like what the function of it is. Have like a diagram and then kind of go through. So this is here. That's distal to this thing. That's proximal to this thing. That's lateral to the other thing. Kind of like that. Kind of go along the anatomy diagram and like tell what is where and what that thing is. Maybe if you have time. And also one disease that is related to that system you're presenting on. Yeah. It doesn't have to be Google Slides like I use. It'd be great if you can like put the link in that sheet so I can like open it up on my computer. But if you want to, you can use your own computer. I think this class lets you connect to like USB-C or HDMI or just normal USB. Yeah. And also, if you just want to like write it on the board, that's all good too. So, okay, terminologies for skeletal system. Spondylo, that's a combining form, means vertebra or backbone, more like vertebra usually. And one example I brought up is spondylolisthesis. So spondylo was vertebra, and listhesis is slipping of vertebra. So what we mean by spondylolisthesis is forward slipping of one lumbar vertebra. Actually, probably take out the lumbar part. I think it's mostly could refer to any vertebra. Forward slipping of one vertebra on the one below. So if you look at this example, this is like a normal spine. What it would look like if spondylolysis happens. Lysis means like breaking or cutting of something. So you get a fracture or cut there. And as a result of it, it might slide to the forwards, causing spondylolisthesis. As you can see, this part slided out to the front from it. Ankylo means crooked, bent, or steep. It's a combining form. And one example I came up with, ankylosing spondylitis. So crooked, bent, ankylo, spondylo. I talked about vertebra. Itis is a suffix that means inflammation. So ankylosing spondylitis. It's an inflammatory arthritis of the spine leading to progressive stiffening. This is it was what ankylo meant, stiffening of your spinal column. So how it would show is that's the normal spine, how it would look in normal human. But when you have ankylosing spondylitis, probably see these intervertebral discs are a little like inflamed. It's like red too. These parts are also like inflamed. So those inflammatory arthritis causes that spinal column to be more stiff and usually results in like a bent posture. Yeah, loss of normal curvature. Arthro is a combining form that means joint. So arthroscopy, let's say, arthro joint plus suffix scopy. Scopy means visual examination from the last lecture. So arthroscopy, endoscopic visual examination of your joints. I didn't know this was possible until I tried making these slides. But you can actually add a scope through your skin into the joint area and take a look around there as well. I think you can also use this scope to, for example, I think here they're trying to like detach it from the kneecap bone for some reason. Things like that could be done too. Desis. The suffix desis means to bind, tied together. So arthrodesis, we said arthro is a joint, and you bind desis, you bind joint together. So surgical fusion that binds a joint is arthrodesis. So one example would be, I think this is more like a old method, but you could drill a nail into a screw into your bone so you can like physically, mechanically connect your joint together. If you do that, I assume you won't be able to like kind of like twist or turn your foot anymore because it's like in place. But joints are fused as a result. Yeah, that was arthrodesis. Chondri, so that /I is also like one way to show combining form. Some combining form and just like I or U instead of O. But don't worry too much about it. Just know the chondro, CHONDR parts. Chondro, combining form is cartilage. So chondromalacia. Chondro, cartilage plus suffix malacia. Remember from last lecture, it means abnormal softening of something. So chondromalacia, abnormal softening of cartilage. If you look at the diagram here, to the left is normal, the normal, how it would look normally. In chondromalacia, you'll get softening of this cartilage, and usually softening of the cartilage means kind of like degradation of cartilage, so you kind of lose those cartilage. That results in bone contacting each other directly. As I said, can grind the bones, and they can cause some inflammation or pain. Coast-O is combining form for rib. Remember, intercostal space. So costochondritis, the costo rib plus chondro, cartilage from previous slide, plus the suffix itis, inflammation. So costochondritis, inflammation of the rib cartilage at the sternum. So all these blue parts that's highlighted here are your cartilages in your rib, and the red part kind of shows like it's gonna be inflamed around there. This is a lot, but they all mean the same thing: bone. Os, e, os I, ost o, osteo, all means bone, and osteoporosis. So osteo, bone, pore, means pore, kind of intuitive. Osis, if you remember from last lecture, it means any kind of condition. So osteoporosis, it's a formation of a porous weakening of the bone, and usually means reduced bone density. So healthy bone to the left should look with like small pores with a lot of like bone tissues connecting between. But in osteoporosis patients, it would look like this: a lot of pores, nearly no bone density. Myello, so it's a combining form that means spinal cord or bone marrow. Usually means more of the spinal cord, so myello. Osteomyelitis. Oh wait, actually, no, it's the other way. It means bone marrow more often than spinal cord. So osteomyelitis, osteo, bone, plus myelo, bone marrow in this case. Itis, inflammation. So myelitis is inflammation of bone and bone marrow. And yeah, it will look like this usually, that